What are you wearing there, my friend? You're looking very smart today.
Crew, it's a half zip top by Crew Clothing.
When did half or quarter zips in my instance, in my case here, is it just people of our age? Quarter zips are the rage.
Definitely.
I've heard it being described as the Primark of the outdoors world, but I now only wear regatta stuff. I'm not sure if that's something to boast about, but it's so comfortable and so warm.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to A Different Corner, a fantasy football podcast. I hope you're well. I'm Manish Verma, and even in the midst of the worst average scoring game week ever, Luman, I managed to score even below that. But my co host is the special one. When you go right, he goes left. He's playing 4D chess. If you've ever watched the Brad Pitt movie Moneyball about the Oakland A's baseball team, well, Luman gets on base. Dr. Luman Ali, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you know what? Because we've not had any Premier League football for a while, I'd completely forgotten about game week 29. But it's a
Mm.
running theme at the moment, this concept of reunions. So,
Mm-hmm.
a reunion in the offing today with game week 29, but also a secondary school reunion that's being organized next month.
Yes. We went to school together. What did we start secondary school? 1996. We finished in 2001. And there's a good, 80 or so people on this WhatsApp group trying to arrange a reunion. I've put myself as not going because this tells you how old I'm getting. I can't remember these people, man. I cannot remember most of the people doing the chat, and now I feel too embarrassed to leave because it'll be like, who left? And my worry with that is, here's my worry, here's my insecurity. Someone, once I leave, will say, who left? Then someone will say, oh, or you will probably say, Manish. And my worst nightmare will be, who's Manish?
Hmm.
That's how
Hmm.
insignificant a person I am to this WhatsApp group in my schooling
I
days.
think this will be the inverse of game week 29, where game week 29, you're going to be horrified revisiting it. This event, you might not be horrified.
I might.
Revisiting some people, you might think, I remember you. I remember you. It's going to be a good old trip down memory lane. And who knows? There might be some women there who, back in the day,
Choose your words wisely here, Lumen.
they might have cast certain glances towards you, and at the event, they were like, "Oh, I remember."
uh,
They might not
I'm
say
not
it.
sure.
They might not say it,
I'm not
Manish. They might not say it. Yeah. So
oh dear.
you'd be making you might be making someone's evening by
Uh,
coming. So we're looking forward to having you there,
okay.
and then if it's not great, we'll go somewhere else. So that's all it's
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
be.
know. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, but talking of reunions, we've been back. We're reuniting on the podcast and reuniting with fantasy football. It's been a weird one that, since the new year, it's fantasy football has been really broken and up and down. Like there's been game weeks without any games. This last week, hardly any fixtures. There's been some I've just completely missed. But now I think the international break is done. Is there another one? I'm not sure. There's probably another one
No, there's
coming
no
up.
more. I mean,
There's no more.
it's very much felt like Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. Sometimes, it's very open and a lot of action. Other times it's closed. So,
There's been lots of
um,
entanglements, however,
uh,
Lumen. Lots of entanglements in this.
and slaps in the face.
So fantasy football slapped me in the face. As I said, the average game week score was 12, which is the worst ever average game week score in the history of the FPL. I scored 11. I had no chips to save me to try to do any bench boost or a free hit. I'd had none of that because I've used all of them apart from one. I've got one wild card left, and I was left with 11. There's not even any point in me running through my points, but essentially, I had West Ham goalkeeper, I got 3 points. I had Bowen, I had Watkins, and there are some disappointing ones there. I mean, Watkins, nothing again. But the biggest loser for me was Son at Spurs as captain, and he did nothing. And Spurs got battered 3-0 away to Fulham. But talking of Fulham, Luman, as I said to you at the start before we recorded, I think it was the shrewdest signing of the season. Tell us what your game week score was, and then we'll get down to this one particular signing.
So I got 26. Of that, I had a total of 7 players playing. And what I did was I took a -4. And the reason I took a -4 was I got 2 players in, not just for this week, but for beyond, right? Interestingly, of those 26 points, of my 7 players, 6 got me 13 points, and 1 player got me the other 13 points. So the players that got me those 13 points, Areola 3, Taylor 1, Doty 1, Bowen 2, Watkins 2, and then the big old disappointment was Son, who got me 4 points. And then the person that got me the half of my points was Rodrigo Muniz Carvalho. Rodrigo Muniz Carvalho. Now,
Can we just without just skirting over the Rodrigo Muniz Carvalho. If you told me that this named person even existed in the Premier League, I would be like, oh, I've never heard of this person. Fulham striker hasn't been playing much up until game week 22. But then my friend, 7 goals in 7 games and only £4.6 million. How can I just ask you your scouting technique here? How did you stumble upon him? How did you where did you find him from? And were you thinking that had you watched Fulham games? Like tell me the process here.
my thinking of getting him in was twofold. Firstly, the fact that he had a game, but also going forward, to get Son into my team for the long term, I would need to get a cheaper forward. Why not get a forward who's bang in form? He started at Burnley with 8 points, game week 23. Then he gets 13 points. Then he gets 8 points. 2 points, 11, 2. And in that Spurs game, he gets 13. So to say that he saved my game week would be an understatement.
His ownership is still only under 5%, but I imagine it's going to go up. You're looking at me with a smirk on your face, thinking I'm also going to be investing there. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? Every part of me, this is an absolute Manish signing here, but I'm not going to because that would be a really dirty FPL move to make. So I'm not going to be doing that. But at 4.6 million, oh my gosh. And what fixtures? Oh my gosh. Favourable fixtures. Sheffield United and then Forest the next two. Who's the one after that? Newcastle at home. West Ham away. The next four are very good. They got Liverpool. In fact, the remaining fixtures, there's only stand out, you would say, Man City and Liverpool that Fulham are playing. Newcastle, you could say. But the rest are very much Fulham winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I looked
Wow.
at that. I looked at that too before getting him in. So, that was it. But this week stood out for 2 reasons. Number one, the lowest average points ever. But number two, the fact that so many people played their free hit. It was
Yeah.
bonkers.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. Yeah.
bonkers. Almost everyone I knew played their free hit.
If I had it, I would have used it. But now, having gone through a game week with this so few fixtures, and my closest rivals in my other leagues, almost the ones closest to me, almost all of them who had it available used it. It backfired. But I think this is just pure FPL luck now, right? It should have gone. It should have gone the way of if you're able to field 11 players, you should be hitting more than the average, certainly. But I got 11 points. The guys around me, 16 points, 20 points, 19 points, and they used a free hit. So actually, it was just a terrible game scoring week. And I have to blame a large chunk of that down to Spurs and Son, because there were a lot of people who captained Son this game week. Obviously, it was going to happen. He was away to Fulham. They were away to Fulham. He's coming back off a 17-point game week, his highest score, and then he absolutely flops. And this was the when I call Son the biggest feast or famine player in the FPL. This is the reason why it completely backfired.
Yeah, I mean, how do you go from beating Villa away 4 nil, I think it was, to losing
Yeah,
at Fulham, 3-0? You just can't explain it other than
yeah.
them being Spursy. And
I try to look after every game week. I try to look at the what the story is of that game week, and it's hard with so few fixtures. But one thing I thought was interesting about the FPL this weekend was, and I looked at the team of the week and so on, and obviously there are only a few teams that played, so there's only so many players that could feature for certain teams. I'm often looking at defenders who assist, right? And then I looked at the defenders who are the top scoring defenders this FPL season. And actually, this season, apart from Kieran Trippier, who's got the most assists this season, who's in the top scoring defenders, the rest are actually those with the kind of high assist numbers aren't necessarily up there, which makes me think actually, are you better off with clean sheet scoring defenders rather than assist and even goals scoring defenders? Give you examples here. Kufal at West Ham, who's got I think 7 assists, and Anthony Robinson, I think it's Anthony Robinson at Fulham. He's got 6 assists. They're both at 4.6 million. So really bargain players. And that is some of the highest assists in the game. Trippier, as a comparison, has 9, okay? But he's obviously 6.7. But these guys, Kufal and Robinson, because their teams don't get clean sheets, they're not in the top defenders. They're quite high for their price, of course, but generally it's the Arsenal boys who are really up there. Trippier is up there because of the goals, and Newcastle have had a few clean sheets this season. But I've looked at defenders a little bit through the goal scoring and assist lens all this time, and not through the clean sheet. I don't know about you. How do you see it all?
I see it as extremely radical. This what I'm gonna say might surprise you, but what you've said doesn't matter at all. We are in a very obscure fantasy football season where we are having shocking points returns from goalkeepers and defenders.
Mm,
Absolutely shocking
mm.
compared to previous seasons. Let me put it this in. Obviously, midfielders and strikers get more points, but if you look at the top scoring uh, midfielders and strike, let me hit you
Mm.
up with
Go
this.
on.
In goal, Bernd Leno and Andre Onana are 105 points each. They're the top scoring goalkeepers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 to 20 midfielders with more points than those
Right.
goalkeepers.
Yeah, yeah,
For forwards, we've got
yeah.
we've got we've got the top 10 forwards roughly. I've got more points than those goalkeepers. Same with defenders. The top scoring one is White with 119, Saliba 112, Trippier 102. I mean, to put it in perspective, Bruno
Mm,
Fernandes, who's not had a great season by
yeah,
any standards,
yeah.
has 105 points. So the point I'm making is it's not about clean sheets or assists because there's no defenders who are consistently getting those.
Mm,
For
mm,
me, it's just about going cheap and cheerful and just hoping someone gets you points. I've
yeah.
never had a season like this where I've picked, had defenders based on hope. Some people have got
Mm.
lucky, they picked Trippier when he had, I mean, Trippier, he had that crazy, crazy run where he got like 8, 18, 12. That's what? 6, 10. So that's what? He's got 63 points in 2, 4, 6, 7 game weeks. But that's 7 game weeks out of 28. Imagine that. So he's got 108 points. And out of those 108 points, he got 63 points in 7 game weeks. It's not worth it.
And you can spend that money then in the positions which are bringing in the points this season, which is the midfield almost entirely. I mean, strikers, we're basically looking at two strikers, really, in Watkins and Haaland. And then you can invest all your money in that midfield. That's really interesting. It gives me a hint as to what you're going to be doing for the next few weeks, though, Lumen, the way your team might be shaping up in that midfield. Because I think a couple of weeks ago you said you were going to do a mad ting and you were going to do something wild. I don't think you're quite there yet.
No, I'm almost there. It's if you look at my midfield now, it's a
Hmm.
powerhouse midfield. So Salah, Bowen, Saka, Son, and Palmer.
Well, let's actually now look ahead. Let's look ahead a bit because something big happened this week. A new double game week was announced in 34, game week 34. Mark it in your calendars. There is a double game week in 34, and it's not an insignificant one. 7 teams are playing twice, and not insignificant teams. Arsenal, Bournemouth, Palace, Everton, Liverpool, Sheffield United, and Wolves. The two standout, obviously, are Arsenal and Liverpool, with players in those teams. I like Wolves for a double, but they've got some tricky ones in that one. Everton are going to be fighting for everything. Palace are still fighting, and Bournemouth are looking tastier now. Thoughts on the double game week in 34 with Mr. I've still got all of my chips, including a triple captain.
Oh my God. I I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you might go to the supermarket and you might see some fries, straight up thin cut French fries. Then, you might see chip shop chips. Then you
Right.
might see steak cut chips. You might see some curly fries, hash brown fries, which are a thing now.
Right.
You know, the the point is they're all tasty, but sometimes choice is not what you might think it is.
Okay.
It's all about timing. So you might be having a day when you fancy a bit of curly fries, but then the curly fries come out a bit overcooked, and you think, "Damn, I wish I'd had the thin cut fries. Would have just tasted a lot better with this steak." So in a roundabout way, I'm saying, it's the maddening sense that I've got all of these chips, but I don't know how to use them. I've got everything. I've got the wild card. I've got the free hit. I've got the bench boost, and I've got the triple captain.
You just hoard. You're a hoarder. You're just like keep them all. By the way, I also think it's wild that anyone is having curly fries with steak. That is a madness chip use, by the way. Hopefully, use your actual chips in a more productive sense than that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Basically, it comes down to using it wisely and hoping on the day that it works out. I know from experience this season, I don't think any of mine have really worked out. Triple captain I used on Haaland that game week, that double game week, it flopped. My free hits flopped. I've got one wild card left, but that's a squad rejig, right? But if you've got chips, oh my gosh, that game week 34 is calling. With that in mind, are there any particular teams then? Obviously, we've got Arsenal. We're away to Wolves in the first game, then at home to Chelsea, and now Arsenal are in title running. They have to be winning both those games. Where are Liverpool? Are away to Fulham and away to Everton, but again are in a title running. They need to be winning both those games. Other than those two, and obviously we know Saka, Salah, there might be an Arsenal defender in there. You might have another rogue Liverpool player around there. But other than that, are there any players, any squads that you're looking at? It's like, actually, you know what? I wouldn't mind so and so. Is there any other teams that you're looking at thinking that's not a bad tip?
I mean, Wolves for a cheap and cheerful defender, Crystal Palace, are going through the new manager bounce.
And we've got two home games.
Yep, 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 yep. So there's one Crystal Palace player that I've got my eye on in particular. Um, it's one like no, he's got hardly anyone owning him. So one thing I will say is Kai Havertz is in a great run of form, and I'm hoping that run of form continues and doesn't stop just because I've picked him.
Are you putting your hex on him? Are you putting a jinx on him now here, Lumen?
He's been a very important source of goals for Arsenal recently. Very
You're
important.
saying that with such menace. People can't see this because it's a podcast, but your face says it all, Lumen. Let's move on because in amongst that, we mentioned Palace, we mentioned Sheffield United slightly. I wanted to have a quick chat, very quick chat, because we don't often give it much airtime. But there is a relegation fight here. Sheffield United, I think, are pretty much done and dusted. Burnley have now won and drawn in the last two. I don't know if that's any sign of anything to come. But above them, Luton, there's Forest, there's Brentford, there's Burnley, I mentioned, and Everton. The next five fixtures or so are going to be really interesting and important. I wonder if there's anyone. Who do you see getting out and staying and surviving?
Well, this year is more complicated than any year before. And the Premier League has got a massive, massive headache in front of themselves. I'm not going to talk about actual form. I'm going to talk about points deductions.
Hmm.
I'm talking about Everton and Forest, who've been hit with points deductions. And the reason why
Yep.
we're talking about headaches here is if those clubs got points deductions over like one or two charges, what do you do with
Mhm.
115?
Oh, is there a team
What
in?
do you
Is
do?
there a team in the Premier League with more than 100 charges against them, and we've yet to hear anything about it? Oh, right.
Yeah. What do we do? What do you do? Do you I mean if that's like relegation to, Sunday league football.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, it is.
So Premier League's got a huge. So I think the points deductions are massive, and it's a killer for Forest. It's an absolute
Yep.
killer for Forest because Luton. I if you listen to one of our earlier shows, I was very dismissive of Luton. This was a few months ago, and then they
Mm-hmm.
started showing some form, and then they played us, and they looked good.
Right.
And I said to myself, "Watch out!" I think I might have been too hasty on Luton.
Mm.
Burnley and Sheffield United.
Done.
Burnley, they've been too adventurous. My golden rule for promoted teams is doesn't matter what your style of football is. For that first season that you're in the Premier
Mm.
League, you just gotta pack your defense and just stay up. Like just make it,
Yep.
dirty like Christina Aguilera. Just.
Dirty.
Yeah,
Interestingly, Luton, who I think you're right, have should deserve all the credit they get, but their next fixtures are tough. They've got Spurs, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Man City, and then Brentford after that, which could be a massive relegation
yeah,
battle. But their next fixtures are not good. Forest, Palace, Fulham, Spurs, Wolves, Everton. Again, not the best fixtures. Palace, Fulham are in form now. Spurs
yeah,
of Spurs. Brentford, Man United, Brighton, Villa, Sheffield and Luton. Burnley, I think we're pretty much there
yeah.
down already. Everton have got Bournemouth, Newcastle, Burnley, Chelsea, and Forest. Possibly the best run of the. I'm not sure. They're all just not in great form, and they're all got tough fixtures. So I don't know. There's going to have to be big upsets. There's going to have to be big upsets.
It's gonna be epic because there's so many teams in
Yeah.
there. But If there was one meme to describe me in recent
Mm.
weeks with FPL, it'd be that guy in like that yellow blazer hiding behind the tree and licking his lips and putting his hands together. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to see what you're doing for your wild card.
Oh
I want
goodness.
to see when you're using it and how you're
It,
using it.
it it would. I mean, I was looking at it yesterday, and I was thinking, oh, this is a week to do it. And then I looked at my squad, and there's almost all of them are at home. I was like, oh god, the killer for me is Mo. How do I get Mo in? And I can't without minusing many points. So I'd have to sacrifice. I'm not willing to sacrifice Son for a straight swap, which I could do because I've got some money in the bank. But yeah, I need Mo in this week. I need him in. So I do that either a wild card or I do it as minus points. This week doesn't really make sense as wild card because I like the fixtures my team has actually got this week. So yeah, it's tricky. What I can say, which leads us beautifully onto our next segment, as this is a weirdly fancy football stroke George Michael theme podcast.
Yeah.
My favorite George Michael song is 1998's Outside, and the lyrics go, I think I'm done with a sofa. I think I'm done with the hall. I think I'm done with the kitchen table, baby. And then he's talking about something a lot more explicit than fantasy football, of course. But who are you in your team done with? I can very much answer that pretty confidently, quickly. The player I am done with, the player I'm done. If I'm done with the sofa, the hall, the kitchen table, baby, I'm also done with Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
I'm done with Jared Bowen, I'm afraid. Oh my gosh. I caught the bandwagon late. I got onto him when he had a couple points, a few goals here and there, but I've got him at the absolute worst time of the season. 3 goals in 11 games, and those 3 goals
Yeah.
were in one game. It was a hat trick. He's also had
Yeah.
only 2 assists in that time. I don't know what's happened to Jared Bowen. West Ham are seventh. They could sneak a European place here and are 2 wins in 10. What's happened to West Ham? What's happened to Jared Bowen? I've got to be done with him. I mean, I think you would probably. Is he still in your squad? You're probably getting rid of him too. Where are you? Because you were early on Jared Bowen, and fair play to you. You reaped the rewards. But now, how do you feel?
Well, I'm done with Jared Bowen as well. But I'm not getting rid of him this week because my focus is on my defense. I've got injuries there, and also what I was saying before about just getting defenders in and hoping. I'm just looking at cheap defenders for top teams who are playing. So that's what my focus is getting those players in.
So you're also done with Jared Bowen. You're also done with Jared Bowen. But looking ahead to next game week, we're at game week 30. I know we talked about 34, but the most immediate one is game week 30. I'm on Salah in, but how? As many people probably are. They've got Brighton. But can you just very quickly give me some inside intel on Liverpool defense, please? Because there's some 4 million, 4.1 million pound players. Kwanzaa, Bradley. I'm interested in these guys. I just don't know who starts in Liverpool back four.
I wouldn't risk it because Conor Bradley's been starting in the absence of Trent, but then in the last game against United, Bradley didn't start in the FA Cup. So you know that was a cause for alarm. Joe Gomez has been playing utility. He's been playing all across the back four. Robertson's been rotated. Virgil van Dijk is the only player who plays every game in terms of the league. So, but what
Yeah.
was interesting was yesterday, and I was extremely annoyed. Robertson came off injured.
Ah, yes, I saw this. Yeah,
If it
Scotland.
is a serious injury, then that's going to have an impact going forward on the Liverpool defense. Now, I'm not going to say anything more than that. You need to do your own homework from here on in.
Get out of here. I think Joe Gomez was playing that fullback role, wasn't he? What's happened to Simicast? I don't know what's happened to that guy. He's fit as well, isn't he?
Yeah, but Joe Gomez has been, has I've been Joe Gomez's biggest critic. He's, not
Mm.
been good, you know, but this season he's had an absolute stormer.
I just think with the Liverpool top team, cheap defenders, it makes sense. It makes sense to go there. It makes sense to go there
Yeah,
firstly.
but then you got to be aware of rotation as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think it's obviously the juiciest fixture this game week is Man City versus Arsenal at the Etihad. I'm really interested to see your shout about whether Haaland is a flat track bully. You said this is the game he would have to do it in. That's going to be really interesting. And also, City Arsenal players. Who do you go for? Who are you tipping for that game? By the way.
well, the issue here is players by default. You've got popular fantasy football picks like Arsenal defenders, Saka, who's in everyone's team, Haaland, who's in everyone's team, right?
Hmm.
You don't transfer them out just for this
Mm.
game week. No one's going to do that. But then you have to question, right? Am I going to dare to put any of those guys on the bench?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where it's going to get interesting. It's going to
Mm.
be very, very interesting. Um, I've been very pragmatic in the past. Uh, just because they're playing difficult games doesn't mean I don't put these players in.
Mhm.
And I've got these players in because otherwise you're just doing too many mental gymnastics in terms of like taking point hits for a week, whatever, and then if you transfer Saka out, for example, can you afford to get him back in,
Mm.
etc., etc., etc. So it's just a case of putting the gladiators in the pen and see who comes out on top.
I'm going all Saka. Come on, Bukayo. He's had a Nando's sauce named after him this week. I've been to Nando's. It was saucy. It was delicious, and he's gonna wipe up. He's gonna. We've talked a lot about food. We've had a lot of chips talk. Now Nando's talk. I'm going in. Come on, Arsenal, man. Come on. We got to beat them.
As a neutral, I want a high scoring draw, and then for them at the
Hmm.
end to turn around and say, "Are you not entertained?" So if you're asking me what I would like to see, I'd like to see a 5-all, Haaland scoring 5 goals and Saka scoring 5 goals. It would be a Premier League classic. I would, I would be very happy with that.
I don't think in the peak Liverpool City them gladiator duels. I don't think we're getting that because I thought that was almost a contrast of styles, whereas this actually is fairly similar. The way we set out is try to suffocate teams. I think Man City do something similar, so I actually think it'll be a lot cagier and tense than a City Liverpool big gladiatorial, high scoring kind of free for all sort of thing.
No, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Yeah, those big words, big words. What we do in life
No, but
echoes in
because we were talking
eternity.
about gladiators
All
before.
right.
We were talking about gladiators before.
Well, on that note, lots of gladiatorial battles. This is not a battle between you and me. I'm trying just to stay in the same arena as you. On that note, Lumen, lots of other interesting fixtures as well, but we will catch up after game week 30, my friend. Have a good one.
As Pep would say, we will be there. We will be there.